Hello, Ranchers. It is time for the RanchCast. So it is Thursday, January 23rd, 2020. Wow, I'm getting old. I remember when I was a kid thinking, you know what? I was born in 1980. That means once we hit the year 2000, my age will always match the addition of the first two numbers and the last two numbers of the year. Kind of nerdy, huh? But yeah, I was a nerdy kid. Go figure. Got into software development. But I know not all of you are nerds. Some of you are actually cool. I'm just not one of them. So today we are breaking the monolith. We're going back to breaking the monolith, and we're actually going to see if it works on my new setup. So I was really careful to back up everything and put everything on GitHub before moving my laptop over to Windows. So now I have essentially two Windows laptops sitting here. I have my Windows laptop to my left, which is what I'm working off of, connected to my screen through a monitor share thing into OBS over on my right, which is another computer which handles the broadcast, because I have some filtering on there. It's rather CPU intensive, and it's not a real powerful laptop, so I don't like to code on that laptop as well. But if you'd like to follow along, if you'd like to join us today, actually here, let's actually go back. Let's go to my screen share. So if you'd like to join us today, let's show everybody who is new how to do that. So let me pop open the web browser. Come on, there we go. So I believe my mouse is dying. It's working great for clicks, but click and drag is not going so well today. So I'm just going to use my keyboard shortcuts to get it over. No, full screen. All right. No, I don't want any of those. This one, that's the one I want. So if you'd like to join us today, go to slack.rancher.io, place your email address in here. You'll get an invite to our Slack workspace, and then join the RanchCast channel. So let's say hi to all of the Rancheroos hanging out in the RanchCast this morning. I see none of you waving hi to me yet. That's okay. There could be none of you listening. But if you missed the live show on Twitch and maybe on YouTube, I've been having problems with the YouTube streaming ever since the COPA changes came out. So COPA, I think it's the Child Online Protection Act. So for every streamer who is streaming to YouTube, we get alerts out the wazoo around recorded videos and around live streams. And I've been having weird issues with the API where it's just not streaming to YouTube. So yeah, that's a fun thing. But if you miss the Twitch stream or you can't see the Twitch stream for anything, they all end up recorded. Like right now, yes, I am recording. Good. They will end up on YouTube. So without further ado, let's get started. And this is a design so that you can follow along with all of my mistakes. And I make lots of them. If you've been watching for a while, people are entertained by just how many mistakes I make, and that's just fine by me. I will never claim to be the smartest person in the room. I just really enjoy doing this. So, if you'd like to join along, github.com/me, Jason Van Breckel. And what did I call the Breaking the Monolith? What did I call Breaking the Monolith repo? Let's find out. Did I call it Breaking the Monolith? Let's search and find out. Breaking the Monolith, good. So we haven't done anything here since November, so I'm sure it's broken. I think the last time I did some work on this, I was at the Tech Bash conference, which will be again next year. So if you want to check out the Tech Bash conference, it is an awesome conference in the fall. I bring my kids. Usually I take them out for a day of school on Friday. They actually teach some kids tech. Really fun conference. So it will again be in October 2020 at Kalahari in the Poconos. It modeled similar to Code Mash. So it actually reminds me, I have to ping the organizers. I want to get more Linux people there. I want to get more Go people there. Because the organizer of Tech Bash came out of the Philly.net ecosystem. So like me, came out of the .NET ecosystem. Really, I've been in a lot of ecosystems over the years. I was part of the Java user group for a while. I've presented at a Microsoft Access meetup. That is an actual thing. It was years and years and years ago. I don't talk about it a whole lot. It's a little bit of shame there. But yes, I did that. So, because I came out of the .NET team, a lot of people I know are .NET developers. A lot of people they know are .NET developers. So it's easy for them to get .NET speakers, harder to get not .NET speakers, but they are interested in making this more of a polyglot conference. So when the CFP comes out, I'll be talking about it because I'll be putting talks in there as well. If you're in the Florida area, I will be at 2 conferences coming up in March and April. So one is the South Florida Developers Conference, which is a Polyglot conference, and at one point I believe was the South Florida .NET Code Camp, but they've become a Polyglot conference as well. Still a lot of .NET people there, but also like I've been talking Kubernetes there and Draft and Helm for a couple of years now. So definitely welcoming to everybody. So I will be in South Florida February 29th. And the following week, I believe I'll be doing a Rancher Rodeo, or somebody else from Rancher will be doing a Rancher Rodeo down in South Florida. It's not been scheduled yet, so check out rancher.com/rodeos for more information on that. But I'll be there, so if you're in anywhere near Fort Lauderdale, let me know. I'd be happy to meet with you. We can talk Kubernetes. We can talk, we can have coffee. All that fun stuff. And if you're running a meetup and you're in that area and you need a speaker, I'm always available. I love, that's one of the cool parts about traveling for conferences is getting to meet new people and doing meetups and all the user groups and stuff. I try to do it every time I get down there. The next one is the Orlando .NET Code Camp. Or maybe it's just the Orlando Code Camp. They've also become a Polyglot conference. Orlando Code Camp. Let's actually do it as Orlando.NET Code Camp, so I can probably find it easier. Yeah, Orlando Code Camp. So they are no longer Orlando.NET Code Camp. They are the Orlando Code Camp. So they are Polyglot Conference. I will be down there in late March, and the same thing applies. If you're in the Orlando area, would love to come meet with you, talk with you, do coffee, go to meetups, go to user groups, and the call for speakers, I think, it might have just closed. So. But then again, they did get a spike. I know they have enough. I know they had enough submissions, and I do know that Kubernetes was hot because Santush is an awesome organizer. Was commenting on just how many things came in for containers and Kubernetes, which is new in that space. So, really, really awesome. So I'll be there. So let's get to Breaking the Monolith. Now, I said that I was going to go through and get this working ahead of time, and then I just got busy and didn't do it. So you get to see whether I actually did my due diligence to document this properly to see if this is working. Probably not, given my history. Yeah, almost certainly. So I'm going to clone I'm not going to clone the repo. I'm going to hit the contributors button. Then I'm going to clone the repo. We're going to copy that. I'm going to open up handy Microsoft Terminal because it is awesome. I really should move the start menu where y'all can see it. Come on. There we go, terminal. And I have a default to PowerShell because I'm a PowerShell person. I do like Bash too. You can see here, these are the various environments I use. I now use PowerShell Core as my default, and then there's Ubuntu, the Azure Cloud Shell. I'll probably add another Linux shell or two just to get the idea of what it looks like to be in other than Ubuntu. I just pick Ubuntu because it's simple. So I've been using Linux on and off since Slackware 2, I think was my first distribution. I did the whole Gen 2 thing where you build your own. I've built my own distro just for fun, more of an academic exercise than anything useful, but just to do it. I occasionally dabble in Arch because I have friends who like Arch, but Ubuntu, just to get stuff done. Don't mind the tea. I'm on less decongestions today than I was on Tuesday. So let's go into our source directory. And I did not get it. So git clone Breaking the Monolith. And what do I have in here? I do have the README. I do have some tests. I git ignore and some slides. So it works. I use Visual Studio. This works in Visual Studio. I have also tested it in JetBrains Writer. So for those of you who don't know what JetBrains Writer is, shout out to them, jetbrains.com. They make awesome tools. They actually have one of their Go IDEs as well. So I'll have Visual Studio 3 Sharper Ultimate today running, but I'm also a big fan of, where is it? It is Writer. So Writer is a cross-platform .NET IDE. Yes, I know, you're stealing all kinds of information from me. Never mind. It's like the Facebook. Actually, it's the other way around. Facebook sells it to everyone else. But I like Writer a lot, And when I was using just Linux, Rider was a godsend for anything .NET. So somebody asked me, why aren't you doing Go? Why aren't you doing, pick your language of choice? Well, a lot of monoliths were built in PHP, LampStack, Java, .NET, and really .NET, because I did the longest stint of my development career in .NET, it's easy for me to not code in .NET for a long time and then code in .NET. So that's why .NET. So I'm going to use, so feel free to pull this in Rider if you're on Linux or Mac OS, Visual Studio if you're there. And as always, if you run into issues, hit me up on the RanchCast channel. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. You're really not going to offend me. I want to make this better every time we do it, which is, I got the cool microphone and the sound box over here and a real camera on me rather than just my laptop cam, because it used to be, laptop camera here, which, other angle, but now I have a laptop camera with really good camera. Well, decent camera. It's not one meant for streaming. I kind of hack it a little bit, but it works. If you're getting into streaming, the popular one is the Sony A6000 or Alpha 6000. I've got the Alpha, was it like the N3X Next or something of its previous generation, and it doesn't have an HDMI output for anything but really monitor. But I just crop out all the monitor stuff, so you're not getting a full 1080p. You get like a 800p or something like that I'm just scaling. But enough about tools. Let's pop open Visual Studio 2019. Of course, it's opening up on the other side, my smaller one. By the way, one of the guys who inspires me to do this is Jeff Fritz. He runs a Twitch stream. He is C# Fritz on Twitch and on YouTube. He makes a really cool set of stream tools that I'm going to adapt for my own needs. But yeah, definitely check him out as well. So let's open a project, shall we? And here, and Breaking the Monolith. And let's see how bad we've broken it. I'm sure we've broken it. I've broken it. You've done nothing. You're just watching. Hopefully following along. It opened up on the other screen. Go figure. Come on, Visual Studio. Visual Studio seems to have gotten hungrier. My license will expire in 3 days. Which license is this? Oops. No, I don't want to give feedback on Visual Studio now. Wow, CPU is just spiking. I really should open Visual Studio before I start. Visual Studio. Huh. Oh, wow. That's kind of cool, actually. So I've had this enterprise Visual Studio license forever. Yeah, really forever. Previous consulting gig bought it and kept renewing it year after year after year. And I kept saying, hey, you're still paying for my Visual Studio license. And they said, well, it's really actually more expensive to turn it off and figure out how to do that because the person who put it together was gone than it was to just keep paying for it. So finally, somebody must have audited. I mean, we're talking like 3-4 years now. But that's okay. I'm all right with that. We'll figure that out later. Okay. And over the screen so you can see it. So generally, if you're watching me on a projector, I'm in light mode. If you're watching me, I'm in dark mode. Hopefully the screen is large enough. So I'm half blind, not, definitely nearsighted. So this is large enough for me, but definitely send feedback if it is not large enough for your stream. So we'll go here. So let's review the Breaking the Monolith. So the first two episodes of Breaking the Monolith were looking at an old ASP.NET chat app. And that specific app was from the 4 guys from Rolla. 4 guys from Rolla. Specifically Motorola. This blog is still around, as is the chat app that I built, that I grabbed. And you can see here the date on it. It was March 22nd of 2000. So that was like half my age ago. And it was just this really simple chat room app built in ASP Classic. And this all started as, hey, I wonder if I can get ASP Classic working in a Windows container on Kubernetes. So that was thing one. Is that possible? And we figured out, yes, it was. So the part one was containerizing the application, which really was, and we'll review each of these items. It's been a while. I don't have it here in my solutions items, so let's actually open it up in the. We'll keep a code window open too. Why not? I use code for everything else. Why not this? So to code, and here in the tests, nope. Source. Is there a Docker file in here? I'm expecting a Docker file. Did I get that far? I thought I got that far. I'm sure I've demoed this stuff before. Maybe I broke it. That's actually really quite possible that I broke it, or that I removed the Docker file. So that might be the first thing we do today, is we actually containerize the monolith. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. No, I've done this before. This is what I get for not looking at my code ahead of time. Let's take a look at this repo and see what I broke. New user joins. Huh. Input, test 2. Yeah, I put a lot of notes in here for what I did. Did I not containerize this thing? Let's look for some code, shall we? I forget how to look at past commits. Oh, 17 commits. All right, working repository, working tests. Oh, this may not be the, this might be the repo I prepared for the Breaking the Monolith talk, and not the repo for, oof. Well, I might have just hosed myself today. That's okay. Slack tracker. This is fine. Oh, here we go. I wrote a blog post on this too. Back when we started doing the Windows Server container stuff with, yep, and use the same app. Good, I do have it. Yeah, so that was the first thing. Yeah, that was the first thing first. I figured out, does it still work? And this was a blog post, so I had to go and actually see if it still worked in IIS, which it did. Yeah, chat app. Good. I've not lost my ever-loving mind. I just forgot to put the Docker file in this specific repository. So we're going to just grab this and actually create the Docker file. Hopefully all my versions work out. We might have to check that with the versioning because I'm on an insider build of Windows. And let's create a directory called, I'm going to put it in the root. It's just easier to put in the root. Over to code. Or in source. It's actually easier to put in code, the root or the source. And that just has to do with Docker context and all of that fun stuff. Eventually we'll do this with like Containerd and Cryo and other things, but Containerd doesn't work in Windows yet. It's just a Docker thing. Now, if you pay attention to SIG Windows, that is the special interest group that does the Windows features on Kubernetes. I'm a lurker there. I don't regularly attend the meetings. I haven't hacked on code in a while, and I wrote some docs back in the day, but haven't done it in a while. So if you're paying attention there, Containerd is coming. I believe it'll be alpha in Kubernetes 1.18. Which is awesome. But GMSA and all the fun things to do with Windows security and containers require Docker for now. If you want to deep dive into how Docker works in Windows, check out the DockerCon 2016 talk. I forget what it was called. This basically is Windows Server containers or Windows containers from DockerCon 2016. It's on Channel 9. Those of you who've watched MSDN videos, you know what Channel 9 is. So, with no further ado, let's create a Docker file. Oops. Yeah, not a good file name. Docker file. And yeah, I'm going to throw this in the root. And I'm doing that because when you do a Docker build, that Docker build's context is as of whatever directory you give it. So I could put it in its own directory and move the context back, relative 2 levels. But I just like making the script easier, really. So let's go ahead and Docker file this stuff, and we'll walk through what happened here. We'll talk about that. So thing one, I need to start with a Windows Server Core 1903 that has IIS with it. Or no, I'm doing the IIS Windows Server Core 1903. So dirty little secret about Windows Server containers is they are attached to operating system versions. So you do Windows Server Container. Was it compatibility? Version matrix. This is version matrix. Yeah, here it is. Version compatibility. So there's Hyper-V isolation and there's process isolation. Hyper-V isolation is quite literally little tiny Hyper-V virtual machine that your container goes in and it's fully isolated. It's kind of cool. Licensing costs more, and it's a really lightweight virtual machine. So barely any pull on your CPU, memory, etc. Kubernetes doesn't support it yet. That's coming. I think the alpha is 118, but I haven't watched the full set. I haven't checked to see if it got in. So there's a code freeze coming up or has come up in, Kubernetes 118. I don't know if it made the code freeze or not. I'll have to look into that. But so today we're in process isolation, which means the server version or the Windows version has to match, the process, or has to be compatible with the container version. So if I have a Windows 10 1903, well, I can't do Hyper-V here. Well, I don't have any process isolation. I thought I had process isolation. Oh, we'll find out. I'm okay with finding out. Oh, I'm going to run Kubernetes out somewhere else anyway. Why don't y'all tell me? I'm just kidding. But let's at least build our Docker file out. So that's thing one. We have our 1903 version, which should match our Windows version. I might have to go to 1909. That's fine too. If we go... Yes, that's exactly where I want to go. If you go to the Windows Server Core, Docker information, or not. Windows IS. You can see here, 1909, 1903, and how to use the image. So if you ever need to know how to use the image, go read the docs for the image, and which tags do what and which tags are available, because there are lots of tags beyond just the version we're going to be using. And I'll say this again, I say it all the time, don't use latest, especially in production. Control your dependencies. If you use latest can change, and your dependencies change. You reboot your machine, and if you have a pull always policy of your image, well, bad things happen. So just something to keep in mind. We're going to copy the chat app. Or we're going to create a directory for the chat app. We are going to install specific IIS features that we need. Oh yeah, and there is a feature for static content. IIS doesn't just include static content, it's a feature. Yeah, I figured that out the hard way. We remove the default website, and we create a website that's listing on port 80, and we copy the chat program into the container. Good enough? Good enough. All right. So did I save it? That is the key. I did not. I would have gone, why didn't this do anything? Yeah. Would have totally messed that up. All right. Keep bumping my mic. Hopefully you can still hear me. All right. We have our Docker file. I'm going to do a help because we always use our help and I always forget how these commands work. So I'm going to Docker build, and I'm going to need a context, and I'm going to have to, and we're going to give it a name and all of that fun stuff. So I'm going to tag it. So we're going to Docker build options. So we're going to tag it. So you will tag it with your GitHub repo name. Mine is More Human Software. I may get rid of that brand. I was branding around that and haven't done a whole lot with it. I still have the blog. I'll actually start using it this year because I'm writing more content. I'm just not finishing any of it. I'll get there. And then what did I call this before? Actually, I have to see what I called this. What did I call this before? Yeah, I sing to myself. I'm a little neurotic. Don't mind me. sure I'm missing some subpath. Real old chat, chat. All right, we'll call it old chat, or just chat. Chat is fine. Chat app. There we go. And then dot. That should work. No, it actually won't, because I'm going to have to change my working directory to copy from chat. All right. So I'm going to grab source. Oh, this is the old chat app first. Okay. Yeah, that was the thing when I did, can I containerize the chat app? Well, let's actually grab the original chat app and containerize it first. We're doing, this is a little bit of a review from what I did before, and it's really just me getting my bearings straight because it's been months since I've worked on this. So yeah. So let me grab, I think I still have the chat app. See, downloads. No, I removed it. That's okay. We have the four guys from Rella page up, and we'll just grab the simple chat app. So I'm going to save this file. What I'm doing off screen, I'm just unblocking it and extract. Yeah, this mouse will need replacing. So clicking is working, but click and hold is not quite working. Obnoxious. Maybe you want to pull my hair out. All right, cutting that. And we're going to put this in our source directory. So, oh, I can't paste here. Let's try this. Can we do that? Add folder to works. Copy folder. There we go. So we have our original chat app, default, display, message, and we'll leave that there. It's Docker file now. That should work. Let's find out. So, step one to break the monolith is one, see if it still works. So specifically around Windows monoliths, make sure they still work in modern IIS because the modern container for IIS is based on modern IIS. Step two is Dockerize the application so that we can deploy anywhere. At least these are my steps. Yours may vary. And let's see how badly this works. Operating Windows cannot be used in this platform. So I'm going over to my Docker setup, and I'm switching it over to Windows containers, which you can't see. Existing containers will continue to run. Yes, we want to continue. So what is now happening is, instead of Docker working in a virtual machine with Linux running, actually you can have Docker backed by WSL2 now as well, which is really cool. I could look into that. Maybe we'll do a RanchCast on that. That'll be kind of awesome. We're switching this machine so that internally, when I hit Docker, it's going to Docker build Windows stuff. Wow, that was fast. It's gotten a lot faster. Can I make this bigger? I can't make this bigger. I want to make this bigger. Settings. Oh, that's weird. It opened up the settings file in Visual Studio. Okay. Let's see. Do we have... I don't know this thing yet. All right. We'll figure it out later. Breaking the monolith. Docker file, readme, slides. Yep, that was it. I was building. Oh, I did it. I forgot to pre-download the Windows Server Core container. So what's happening is, if you ever take apart a container or you take apart a container definition, it's basically a set of deltas from a starting point. In this case, the starting point is the Windows Server Core IS container image. It's 1.5 gigabytes in size. It would have been smart of me to do the Docker pull ahead of time, so this was in my local repo. Yeah. not so smart. I'm not a smart man. But fortunately, we have other things we can do while we're waiting for that thing to download. And I can even pull one of the old versions to show it working. So we're just going to add another window here. All right, so we'll add another PowerShell window so we can do other things while it's running. Let me go look at what that was called. That was called Real Old Chat with 2 L's, because that's how you spell real. And we'll just do Docker run on this. Oh, but it might still need that base container. Stupid. Sorry, y'all. Let's actually then work on the next step after we, A, make sure it works in modern IIS, and B, make sure we can containerize it, the original app. So C, we decided to use the I'm forgetting the name of the pattern. It is from Patterns of Domain-Driven Design. So it is a specific pattern from Eric Evans' book. Yeah, so go read this book. It was written like in 2003, I believe. It is well worth your time still, because it talks about building OOP software. Now, if you're doing functional programming, this may not apply to you. Honestly, actually, it would still apply, because the patterns still work. The separation of things still work. So, this is a really good book. Ooh, what's the orange one? Oh, it's a reference. Ooh, I might have to buy that. And then I have no idea what this one is. Implementing domain-driven design. Okay. I want to see the reference. There's a reference book? When was this published? Has it been around forever and I just missed it? No. 2014. So 5 years. I mean, it's a long time, but not compared to the length of the book. I had no idea that was a thing. You learn something new every day. And I just remember the name of the pattern. It's called the anti-corruption layer. Wow. All right. DDD anti-corruption layer pattern. We'll go to the Microsoft documentation, because it's actually a really good diagram of how this works. So let's assume this is how we're going to build it. And so our old chat app is over here. This is subsystem B. Now, the data store for it is the session variable in IIS. So this presents a really unique challenge. Not a bad challenge, just a unique challenge. So if we look at this old chat app, when we look at how it's built, there's the default page, which is two subframes. We have the display subframe, which is the top of our app, and you can see here it's actually pulling messages from the application variable. So those of you who are not ASP Classic, fluent, I unfortunately did a lot of ASP Classic back in the day. That variable is stored in IIS in memory. So there is no data store, which is unfortunate. So we're eventually going to have to build one. But for now, this application, this subsystem B over here in our domain-driven design, is both its own application and its own data store. Let's go get messy. Go get real messy. And then subsystem A is the microservices that we're going to build that take advantage of subsystem B. Again, this is the use case where the old system has to hang around and still be useful while we build out the new thing. And this is actually one of the better ways of breaking the monolith, because what a lot of companies will do, and I've been part of these efforts, is they'll do a rewrite. Rewrites don't work. And there are multiple problems with it, and I've talked about it in previous videos. You create a cultural problem, because if you're splitting the team, so you have some of the team maintaining the old thing and some team the new thing, there's jealousy unless you're constantly rotating. And there's no knowledge sharing, because you're or there's knowledge sharing, but it's slower because you're constantly rotating. Now, the rotating idea does work, but what happens most of the time is, Team A is still doing the old thing, and Team B is brought in from the outside to build the new thing from the old thing. But the old thing is still changing and evolving and having features added and bug fixes, and the new thing never catches up with the old thing. Or you get scope creep because of there's just all kinds of things that go wrong here. I've talked about it at length in other videos. and in other talks. So don't do that. Please don't do that. There's lots of bad reasons for it. Use a pattern that fits it. Now, if thing A doesn't have to be usable by thing B, or there's no connection, you don't need this pattern. This pattern is a waste of time. Just build a new thing, leave the old thing, and let the old thing die one day. But this will go into some of the craziness that happens when you're breaking a monolith, especially one that's almost 20 years old. And you can't tell me there's not 20-year-old software out there, because I've seen stuff that I wrote before. I was in an interview once where a piece of software I wrote in ASP Classic got too expensive for the vendor. The vendor then sold the maintenance of the application to another company. And while I was interviewing at that company, I caught a glance of the screen in the dude's glasses, recognized my own code, recognized my own screen. He was looking at a screen. I recognized my own screen and said, "Oh yeah, I wrote that. Backend's COBOL, right?" He was like, "How do you know?" Well, yeah, they used to pay us for that, and I guess now they're paying you for that. So let's continue with our breaking of our our monolith. So what we have to build here, so this exists, and this will exist. But for this to exist, we need this anti-corruption layer. This anti-corruption layer becomes the API for both systems eventually. So this becomes our record. So what will happen is this will be built using this as our store. Then any new features to this will talk to the anti-corruption layer, this will evolve as this evolves and as this gets built. And then this talks to the anti-corruption layer. So what happens is you're slowly breaking off pieces of this monolith. So what we'll do is we'll take the data store out of the subsystem, put it into a real-life data store that both apps can use. Cool? Cool. And read through the considerations. This is a great tool for when you have a legacy thing and a not so legacy thing that have to live together, and that's what we're doing in this example. Let's see how our download's going. Hey, oh wow, I can talk. I talked right through the download of that into the extracting of that. But we have more to extract. That's okay. Now, I've already built out this layer as part of the demo. So the other thing about building the anti-corruption layer, and anything that you build further, anything you change, you unit test. If you're not doing unit testing, you can't do continuous integration, continuous deployment, because you can't guarantee a safe working environment and a safe production environment for your development teams and your ops teams. I am one of those people who believes in trunk-based development. You develop against the trunk. You commit to the trunk once a day. You use things like feature flags to separate out new features and old things. But you should be building and architecting your applications, and your practices should be such that this is possible. I mean, think about it. You and your team are mutually accountable for what you build. Your company, you're mutually accountable to servicing your clients. So if you're all mutually accountable to the same things, then why not own production? Be responsible for that. So yeah. But enough of my soapbox. I mean, this is my channel. I guess it is kind of my soapbox. So the first thing I did with this was we built an API, and we have tests, and we have the API. So let's start with the UI testing of the monolith. So we did tests around the chat UI, and we essentially want it to hold up, actually getting pulled from Slack for 30 seconds with something that is time sensitive. So give me a minute to say that. All right, there, answering the question. back to the live stream. One of the other fun things about doing live streaming is that work is happening, and essentially being in the consulting org and helping build out this team, excuse me, and making new consultants better at this stuff means I just to be available. So sorry about that. Was that a minute, maybe 90 seconds? All right. So we have our tests. So we use Selenium. Selenium allows you to automate the browser. That's its job. It has some really cool gridding capabilities. There's a plugin for Firefox that allows you to create Selenium tests and even generate code. And that's where I start. So go back to the past videos. I think I've done it in the past videos. Yeah, I would have had to if I made this code. But did I? Yeah. Okay, hopefully we did this. So I'm using the Chrome driver. I'm just going to remove the Firefox driver for now for the sake of our testing. Chrome driver, create driver service. I'm basically saying, hey, use Selenium and Chrome driver. But I bet I don't have the Chrome driver in that directory. So I'm going to dir, /backslash. Do I even have a tools directory? I don't yet. Okay. So, as usual, we always take notes for the RanchCast for things that I've done wrong. Action items. So 1, we have to commit the Docker file to source code. We have to document our dependencies. What else do I have to do? Oh, set up Selenium, which really should be in the dependencies. So we'll make sure that those things are getting done, and we'll put this in the Breaking the Monolith, and in the, to do is fine. I do pretty much everything in Markdown these days. Since GitHub does Markdown and other tools do Markdown, that works just fine. So let's grab Selenium, shall we? The website is seleniumhq.com. Oh, I even have the plugin built in, so I could do my test right here. That's cool. Do I have one already existing? No, I think I deleted all those things. I did. All right. Play that later. So we need, really what we want is Selenium Grid. You know what? I will do a RanchCast on Selenium, on setting up Selenium Grid. I used to, I'm saying a lot today. It's annoying me. So I used to do talk on CI/CD, as part of like Philly.net, around Selenium. So I've done a lot of this. I've trained people on this. It's one of those, hey, I think UI testing is really important. Not everybody does. So let's go ahead and install it. So I'll do a class on Selenium Grid as well. Other notes. Do a class on Selenium Grid. So let's go ahead and download the WebDriver, Selenium Grid. I just want the WebDriver for Chrome. There we go. So Grid will let you do multi-browser testing and all kinds of really cool stuff. So I'm going to grab the latest stable Chrome driver. What version of Chrome do I have? I got Chrome. I really didn't install Chrome. I'm not a smart man. All right. Oh, that means Chrome is a dependency too. Document dependencies, Chrome. We'll also add Firefox. And I bet there's one for the new Edge. Win32. Hopefully that's not a problem. All right. All I'm doing is on my other screen, I am unblocking the file because it has an executable in it. Going in and grabbing the code driver. I'm going to put it in C. I keep a set of tools in C just because it makes life easier for me rather than having to do all users and things like that in Windows. And I'm pasting it. You just can't see it. That's why I'm talking through it. But so now I have a Chrome driver over here in C : /tools / Chrome driver. That was a directory, right? And I've got some stuff hard coded in here. This is not best practice by far. Best practice is go talk to a Selenium grid. We'll set that up maybe we'll set that up as an aside to Breaking the Monolith next week. That'll be my next Thursday talk. So tools, Selenium. Good. So it's in the right directory now. We always make sure that we quit the driver, so we're not hanging the drivers around and executables that aren't being used. And there were essentially 2 tests I did. Did I use XUnit here? I don't even remember. That's how long it's been since I've been in this code base. So, WebDriver XUnit. Why did I use XUnit? I tend to prefer machine specific. Oh, because I was also doing it for a code camp, and XUnit is more often used than all of that. And then I also want to manage my NuGet dependencies, make sure that I restore NuGet packages. So that should get all our NuGetty goodness. All right. Good. Driver. So we got 2 pages. We want to make sure that when the chat page opens, that the time and date are now. So we're testing to see the time and date work right. We're testing when a new user joins, that it says the right message, that the user is named guest, that when a message is sent, that it pops up on the page. Really the important things. And we probably should have a test around, I'll also do a test around changing the username. So that's a good idea. So because we're going to test all the functionality that we can potentially change. And really, don't do this all at once. As you touch something, write the unit test for it. Again, this is a little bit of a contrived example. I'm just showing you how the thought process for doing this. So, great book around dealing with legacy applications. It's called Working Effectively with Legacy Code. With Legacy Code by, is it Michael Feathers? Yeah, Michael Feathers. This is a great book. Go read this book. I think the examples are mostly in Java, if I remember correctly, but if you can read C# and you can read Go, you can read Java. Actually, that's a pretty cool stack of books right there. All right. Back to the work at hand. So we'll make sure everything's working, and then if it's not, we'll fix it, and if it is, we'll add the new test. So we're just gonna run all in our unit testing framework. Oh, everything's broken. Everything is very, very broken. Cannot find the Chrome binary. Oh, I didn't install Chrome. That was smart. All right. Oh, I have Chocolatey installed. Open an admin window. So I have a cute little piece of code that when yes, we can terminate it. I have a cute little piece of code that when I open an admin window, it's red. Cute little piece of PowerShell to make sure that I know, hey, you're in an admin window. You have special powers. Because, it's nice. I prefer that Linux allows me to do sudo. I had a sudo alias for PowerShell. I'll have to rewrite that or find my code for that. Let's see. So I was going to install Chrome. So I use Chocolatey. Choco search. So Chocolatey is a package manager for Windows. Tons of Chrome. And I just want Chrome. Oh, wow. Google Voice Chrome. Sorry about the cough. Selenium Chrome driver. Oh. Excuse me. That would have been nice. Google Chrome X64. Yeah, that's probably what I want. So Choco Google Chrome. Oh, I lost 47. That's way long time ago. We're going to check next to the chocolatey repo. It may not be the best way to install it now. Yeah, that's the one I want. Google Chrome. There we go. I thought for sure I had this in my bootstrap. So I keep a chocolatey bootstrap that will bootstrap all of my software for me, including Google Chrome, and I guess I just didn't. No, I didn't. Huh. Okay. We'll do this. We'll have this done in a second. Okay, a couple seconds. I need background music. This is where I'd like to. I mean, I wouldn't be able to hear it. It'd be part of the feed. I could just move Alexa down here. We just have to find music that's, royalty free. Installing Chrome. Quiet today on the RanchCast. Now we should have Chrome, right? Yes, we have Chrome. Chrome is now over here. All right, good. Let's try this again. Run our unit tests. So grid, when you use grid, you have nodes, and those nodes, oh, look at this, it's over here now. And that's good, because we know our tests work now. It's just looking for something that's not actually running. Yeah, I know. Everything's dead. Everything is dead. It's just running a new test. That's okay. Excuse me. We can fix this. We stop our test, and let's get the application up and running. And since we have everything got pulled from Docker, right? Docker. Oh, I did build that. So let's Docker. Thank you, Visual Studio. I appreciate that. Docker PS. I should have. We did do our build, didn't we? Maybe. Yeah, it did its thing. All right, so let's Docker run. And we need to redirect ports. So I don't know if 80 is being used. Hopefully not. Port 80 to 80. We'll know in a second. I don't think there's any standard out logging here. All right. Well, it's not complaining. Let's try it by hand first. Nothing. I would like a little more information. No default? All right. Oh, we have our blog post here. I'm going to cheat and read my own blog. Build a container image. Yep, did that. Testing the image. All right. Oh, it never did run. I should have gotten that. Oh, I didn't run it detached. Oh, it's not chat. The chat app, I think I called it today. That's all right. We'll run chat app and then we'll run chat. We'll run this in another window. All right, Docker. I'm gonna actually pop into this Breaking the Monolith chat app. So I want to Docker run or Docker exec chat app. Oh, the other one is what I want to run. I want to run PowerShell. Oh. Yes, sir. Oh, there's not a running one called chat app. Let's just see how this one's doing. Oh, we have to download a different version of super large, unimaginably big 1.5 gigabyte container because it's probably a different tag for an older version. So let's Docker run again. Make sure we do our chat app latest. Oh, I know what was wrong. I missed the firewall notification from Windows saying, hey, would you like to allow this to happen? And I had to say, yes, I do want this to happen. Yeah, that was it. Firewall issue. All right. So now let's modify our unit test. And we're still going to keep the hard coding for now. We'll do this right later. Localhost port 8080. Actually, let's just do a finding a place on that. Again, this is not best practices. We need to do this dynamically, but we're going to walk before we can run. And let's just check our unit test again. And again, they're popping up on another screen, which is fine. Yay! We have working tests. Or, well, we don't have working tests, we have running tests. Oh, no such element exception. Oh no. And third test. All right. I bet that one worked. Oh, I know what I did. Yeah. So, I actually cheated when I did this for my presentation and put an ID around the date code. So, in this version of the application, where we have display, yeah, there's a date here somewhere. Date time. Yeah, here it is. I added a div, which was cheating. I could, yeah, let's do that. Actually, let's do that again. It's actually, what was this? Where? Oh, that's where the source is for the chat app. I did actually move the source. Okay, that one I removed. That was just so smart. All right. So let's change the Docker file to reflect the fact that we do actually have the source code in here, and we can remove the superfluous source code that I copied over. So that's thing one. Remove superfluous source code. Thing two, chat UI. So I want to copy this path. And then instead of this, we're going to copy that path. No, we're not going to copy that path. We're going to use the relative path. Oh, that clicking is driving me. I might actually run to Staples and grab a new mouse today. They don't make my mouse anymore, though. I've got this thing from Logitech that is a really, really cool mouse. It's like an MX 700 or 710 or something. They don't make it anymore. I don't like the replacement for it. I may have to go on Amazon to see if I can find an old one. All right. UI. Yeah, let's just use our proper slashes. And let's go and rebuild. So, if you've never done this, Control R is your friend. It works in Bash, it works in PowerShell. It allows us to find the last thing that we ran and rerun it. And good. So latest has changed. Don't do latest in prod. Remember, we're learning. Lots of text today. All right. And so we can now Docker run. Whoops. Docker stop. Docker stop. 02 df. Come on. Die already. Thank you. And C790. And let's give this one a name. The RanchCast. Actually, it should be before the... All right. That's it. Oh, it didn't work. It thinks I passed that to the container. Oh, well. Not a big deal. Again. Let's see if our page is working. Oh, no. Actually, we were on 8080. Yeah, it's working. This was some weird side effect. It doesn't happen all the time. And then let's go ahead and see if all of our tests are passing. Please let our tests be passing. We're about an hour in. I may go to the half an hour. We'll write this test, and we'll continue breaking the monolith next week. We'll write a test for the username. Awesome. Just when the message is sent, also check the username. Test user, test message, assert the message is within 60 seconds. Yeah, I have some now-ish in here because trying to figure out timing on an ASP Classic app was just not worth it. Assert user is username. Oh, I did test that because if you'll notice when you send one of these, when you send a message with a new username, it actually changes the username. And that's actually, it's tested by the unit test. And really, if we were going to do this unit test right, oh, no, the test actually did everything that I told it to do. Huh, nice. Let's say we should be randomly generating messages and stuff, but we did that. That's nice. I actually thought through that. Huh, wait. Why do I not have the test messages? I'm not going to worry about that right now. It's not a big deal. All right. So we have our tests around our application. The next step is building out our anti-corruption layer, which I did in an API. So I used the web API. What is essentially happening? So message, create a message object, create a receive message object, and we have startup. So I'm just using a really lightweight ASP.NET Web API. Right? That's what I did. Yes, I'm app controllers. And there's only one controller, and it's the messages controller. So it can grab messages, and it can receive a message. So it's basically two API calls. So our microservices can use this API now. So now if we look at our, did I remove that? I did remove that. All right. Grab our test from earlier. Here's our crystal layer pattern. So basically, that is this that we're looking at now, and it's just two things. It's send a message and receive messages, so it can it could send them from the API. So we have no new UI yet, no new UI, no microservices yet. We're just building out our layer. So here we are. So we have our controller, and these are just path based. So it's API / messages and API / messages with a post. We get a post on the same thing with the body of receive message, and that's it. That's really just it. So if we look at our unit test for this, we also test this because we're building, so we should test it. We have our message controller tests, and the message should get stored. So I basically just create some fake messages with a unit testing API, call the controller action with the message, and then assert that it was called. So really, I'm just making sure that when I call the controller, that the repo, which in this case the repository is, I'm using a repository pattern as a front for the app. So let's go find the repo as well. Repository tests. So we have this chat app based repository. This is where the insanity comes in. So I'm using a repository pattern like I would use the database, except I'm treating the web page as if it were a database. That is a little insane. But since I have no backend, since in the idea of this, since I have none of these, the web page is acting as its own data store because of that application layer variable. So I have to treat it that way, at least to begin with. We're going to break that monolith. We're going to expand it so it's not so brittle, so it's multi-tenant and things of that way in nature. But we start where we are. So starting where we are, let's take a look at the tests for the repo. And the repo itself is when a message gets stored, we assert that in the application, we assert the messages. Oh, with the grab message. So yeah, basically I'm storing the messages and then I'm grabbing the messages. So I'm using the repo to test itself. That's not the best of tests, but in this case, since we are testing both the pull and the store, if one doesn't work, they both don't work. It's not the best of tests, but I'm okay with it in this case. So let's run all of our tests now. So Alt-R, U. So this is one of the cool things about when I have ReSharper installed. My running unit test is Alt-R for ReSharper, Alt-U for unit tests, and Alt-N for all tests from the solution. Alt-Run. And we're going to run all of the things. We should have more tests. And we see now we have, so I'm going to have to, I'm going to change my primary screen so that like the things pop up and you see them. So when a user joins, good. We have when the chat page opens. Good. Testing the time. And when a message is sent. Now, there are ways to speed up your UI testing and have sequential UI testing. This is like the simplest of examples. Did it actually send that? Yeah, it did. Good. What happened that fast? Good. So we know those pass. And now we're waiting on our other tests. They're testing our controller actions, which will fail because we haven't deployed the controller yet. Oh, no, we don't have to deploy the controller to test it. But we have a failed test. So we have the message controller, get messages should return messages. And really all we're testing is that if we call the controller, that the repository gets called. Because the repository is doing the real work. We could test the return value as well, but we're trying to test things in isolation. So this is really an integration test. And we know our integration tests work, but what we're seeing is that our repo test did not work. So let's find out why. So let's take a look at our stack trace. Because the machine actively... Oh, I know what's wrong. My repo is set up to test against a different version, I believe. Let's take a look. So, repo, store message. Let's actually look at the repo store message code. Yeah, I hard-coded a path. This is bad. Don't do this. But you can see here, we're actually using the repo, the repository for this chat-based app is actually grabbing the display and grabbing the message. So to actually pull the messages, I'm using a library called the HTML Agility Pack, and it's an easy way to scan an HTML document using a regex pattern, which is what I'm using it for. Oh, time regex. Oh, interesting. Actually grabbed. Interesting. I could actually change my unit test for the web page to use this if I wanted to, and not have to cheat and use the ID. But I'm fine with my cheat. So when I'm doing a list, I'm actually just I'm basically grabbing that table, grabbing the chat table, parsing the chat table, and sending back a list of messages as objects, which then get serialized to JSON when they return. And then also make sure that I'm stripping off things like non-breaking spaces and the like. And then when I'm storing a message, I'm quite literally calling the message web app. And so really here we just need to change this from localhost to localhost 8080. Again, we'll fix that later. Let's walk before we can run. So that'll be our to-do as well. Make the UI tests more flexible. And let's alt run our unit test. Now, eventually we'll actually set up some, we'll do a whole like DevOps series on CI/CD and setting up continuous integration, continuous testing, because you can do that from your laptop, or you can do it from a server, or both. Commit early, commit often, and constantly be testing, always be testing. Really, I should have just tested the chat app API because that was the one I'd broken. And that works, and we're testing our other one to see if it broke. I forget, does ReSharper include continuous testing? Unit test sessions. You know what, let's do a quick Google search. Oh, everything passed. That's good. So let's actually just do a quick, just because I'm curious. ReSharper. Outdated. Continuous rework, find the up to date. That's what I want in the .cover documentation. I think I do have .cover. I just don't think I have it installed. ReSharper options .cover continuous testing. Let's give it a try. ReSharper cover. ReSharper options .cover continuous testing. ReSharper options. .cover continuous testing. Show continuous testing indicator on the status bar. Automatically start tests in testing sections on save. Shadow copy. Yeah, we're shadow copying all the things. So let's see if this works. So let's change it. Actually, let's separate the test out for when a message is sent and when the user is changed. So we're actually just going to copy this test, and we're going to test one thing at a time. Really, this is wasteful as far as resources go, but so when a message is sent, Start username. We're gonna remove this test from here when a message is sent with a new username. This is a completely contrived example. We're just testing out the feature of continuous tests, and assert message. It's not even the right comment. The comment's bad. Assert that the message is sent. All right. So what is this? No failed test. One or new outdated test. Double click to open new test sessions. Oh, I want. Where's my continuous testing? Options. Cover current session. Profile current session. Cover. Let's try that. Oh. I might have to do more. I'm going to read the docs. I'll read the docs. We'll come back to it. I was just curious. I used to have a piece of software installed in Visual Studio years ago when I used to code full time called continuous tests, and it would go and rebuild and retest every time I made a save, which was really nice actually. So we have working tests. We've split out all our tests. So we're just going to RUN real quick to make sure they're all working. Since we did make a change. And really, we don't need to test everything. We just need to test the things that we changed. And that's why I like continuous test, because it's smarter about that and will recognize, oh, I broke it. I broke it. Not even sure what I broke, but I broke it. It's probably a bad test. I'm going to ignore it for now. Actually, I'm probably just going to undo the changes I made here, which is fine. I have no problem with that. Because we know that we're now set up for the next episode of Breaking the Monolith. So where we are in Breaking the Monolith, now that we have everything working, is we are here. So we have this built, and we have this built. So the next thing we're going to do is build our first microservice that's going to take advantage of the anti-corruption layer. And we'll test that. I'm not sure what service I'm going to add to it. Maybe it'll be a user tracking service or something along that. So I can totally see a million things I could do now that I know which users are talking to a chat app. Yeah, we'll build a microservice, something small and simple. Maybe we even build it and Go. It'd be fun. Yeah, maybe. I gotta refresh on Go. It's been a while. We'll build a small microservice regardless, and we'll do that in the next episode. So, thank you again for joining me. As always, thank you for putting up with all of my fun mistakes, and I will see you in the next video. Bye now.